If you've learned anything about narcissists, you've probably learned that a big part of their life is being able to control other people. Narcissists are very focused on being able to control people physically, spiritually, financially, and emotionally. And that's what we're going to talk about in today's video, is how narcissists try to control people's emotions. And they can do this in a way that you might not even be able to see. This could trap you in a type of emotional prison that you don't even know you need to break out of. And that's what I hope to help you with today. Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I'm not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. I want to start this video by saying that if a narcissist in your life has succeeded in controlling your emotions, you shouldn't feel bad about that. I think it's really common for many of us to feel like we've fallen for somebody's games, we're weak, maybe we're foolish because we've allowed someone to control our emotions. But the ways that narcissists control your emotions are taking advantage of normal parts of human nature. So if you have allowed a narcissist to control your emotions, it doesn't mean that anything is wrong with you. It means that you are human, and the narcissist knows how to hijack those normal human parts of you. And there's nothing to be ashamed of about that. There's nothing wrong with you. It's kind of like when you get into an automobile and you start the ignition and you push your foot on the gas, the automobile is going to react. It's going to go forward or backward, whatever gear it's in. And there's nothing wrong with the car because you have done what you have learned to do to manipulate the car to react. And that's what narcissists learn to do. That's what they spend their whole lives studying or practicing, is how to get emotional reactions out of people, how to emotionally trigger people. So they are essentially getting into an automobile, starting the engine and pushing their foot on the pedal. And if you are that person and you react, it just means that you are operating like a normal person does. In fact, if you didn't react to their emotional manipulations and the ways that they emotionally trigger people, that would actually mean something is a little unusual about you. So I just want to preface all of this by saying, don't beat yourself up and don't feel like you're weak or anything's wrong with you if you are emotionally triggered by these tricks and these games that narcissists play. These are simply normal reactions that normal people will have to the things that narcissists do. So in this video, I'm going to go over several ways that you can view the ways narcissists trigger you or control your emotions that can help you kind of let go of these psychological tricks that they play on you as they are controlling your emotions. And of course, the first thing I want to talk about is the obvious solution for any of us. And, that is to minimize or cut off contact with a narcissist. I mean, a narcissist can't control your emotions if they have no access to you, if they can't talk to you, if they can't have a conversation with you. They're going to lose control of your emotions. But I know that that's not an answer that works for everybody. Some of us are not in situations where we can easily cut off contact. Or maybe even if we're in the process of cutting off a relationship with somebody, we still have to deal with them maybe while we are going through a divorce or while we are splitting our things up or whatever. And there's also situations where maybe this is a family member and maybe their behavior is emotionally triggering, but maybe for you personally, you've decided it's not quite bad enough to warrant ending the relationship, but you'd still like to try to learn how to not be emotionally triggered. And then of course, there's situations where maybe we share children with a narcissist and we can't just completely cut the relationship off. We have to deal with this person on a certain level. So there's all kinds of reasons that some people will have to continue practicing not reacting to a narcissist's provocations and not letting a narcissist control them. And the solution of just ending or cutting the relationship off isn't always an option for everyone. So that's what the rest of this video is going to be about. I first want anyone dealing with this to really stop and think about the fact that most of what narcissists use to control your emotions are based on lies. Narcissists can use a seed of truth, a kernel of truth, to control your emotions, but there's usually always a very unfair or biased slant to it, an exaggeration, an embellishment, or something that's just completely made up. There's always some kind of lie in the things that are used to control your emotions. And a lot of what can trigger you is this deep desire to correct this misunderstanding, or this deep desire to defend yourself against something that you don't realize is a lie. So hopefully I can make this a little more clear as I go on in this video, but I just want you to remember that narcissists control others with lies and exaggerations and misrepresentations. Narcissists do not exist in truth. A narcissist has no truth and has no use for the truth. The next thing I want to suggest that you consider is that when you're dealing with a narcissist that you've been dealing with in your life, that you need to adjust your expectations. It's perfectly normal and reasonable to expect the people in your life to be reasonable, right? To care a little bit about your feelings, to care a little bit about the way their behavior affects other people, to listen to you if you're saying something true or reasonable, right? But when you're dealing with someone that you've dealt with for a while, and they have shown you over and over again that they don't listen, or maybe they pretend to listen, but the next day they've forgotten everything you said, or it seems like they have. When they've shown you over and over again that they're willing to say things that hurt you, that they are unfair, that they'll fly off the handle over any little thing, that they are petty, this is who they are. And I think that there's a lot of peace and power in accepting that this is who this person is. And I have known people that have relationships, not necessarily romantic relationships, but especially I think family relationships with people that they continue to expect reasonable reactions or reasonable treatment from, when this person has shown them over and over and over and over again that they are not reasonable. I think you can save yourself a lot of heartache when you accept that this person isn't reasonable. They're going to say rude things to me. They're going to pretend to listen, or they're not going to listen to me when I try to talk. So, I think this can help you stop wasting time trying to explain things to them, or wasting time treating them as if they're a reasonable person, wasting your breath on them, wasting time and energy explaining things to them that they don't care about. There's a lot of power and peace in seeing people as they are. And I'm not saying that it's okay if somebody in your life doesn't care about your feelings, doesn't listen to you, doesn't treat you with respect. That's not okay. But if that's who they are, you can't change it. And you can only drive yourself crazy by expecting them to be more than what they have shown you they are. Another thing that you can do to let go of the control that a narcissist has over your emotions is to recognize that the things a narcissist says to you are not necessarily what they believe. So when a narcissist says something like, "You don't even care about me," or "You never listen to me," or "I bet you're still in love with your ex," or whatever, they don't necessarily believe what they're saying, because the truth of what they really think has nothing to do with the things they do to control your emotions. So they may have not even stopped to think about what they actually believe. When they say something like, "You don't even care about me," or "I bet you're still in love with your ex," they probably haven't even thought about whether or not they actually believe that, because it has nothing to do with why they are saying it. Narcissists will say things to you to trigger you, to put you on the defensive, to get you arguing, to make you upset, so that they can control the narrative and control your emotions. It doesn't have anything to do with what they actually believe. But when you don't understand that, you can become very upset thinking that oh my gosh, this person thinks that I'm still in love with my ex, or oh my gosh, this person that I've put all this time and energy into thinks that I don't care about them. I have to fix this. I have to make sure that they understand the truth. When in reality, they're not even thinking about what they actually believe. And when you're dealing with a narcissist, you are never, ever, ever, ever going to be able to correct their misunderstandings, because it has nothing to do with what they actually believe. You can have all the proof and evidence in the world, and if that narcissist in that moment has emotionally decided that you don't care about them, or you never listen, or whatever they're accusing you of, their emotions are telling them what reality is, and you will never convince them of anything else, because it has nothing to do with what they actually believe. It only has to do with what they think they need to say to control you. And on top of that, the harder that you try to prove yourself or defend yourself or correct their misunderstandings, the more encouraged they are to continue along that line. Because, if they say, you don't even care about me, and you just start going on and on about all these examples of all this evidence that you do care, they're not thinking to themselves, oh, okay, maybe this person does care because they did do this and they did do that. No, they're thinking, oh, wow, I hit a nerve here. Oh, I can keep this person just wrapped around my finger for hours on all I have to do is just suggest again that they don't care because this or that or the other. All I have to do is just keep sprinkling in this suggestion that they don't care about me, and look at them. It's like a spinning top. And so they're going to just keep doing it and keep feeding into it because they just feel so important and relevant and entertained by how worked up it is making you. And it has nothing to do with what they actually believe. Another empowering belief that you can build is to recognize the irrelevance of a narcissist opinion of you. When this person has a very important place in your life, when you trust them, you love them, you respect them, it can be very hard to see how unimportant their opinions of you really are, because they are important. This is an important person to you, and so you respect their opinions and you want them to be pleased with you or to like you or to feel like you care or whatever. Their opinions matter. But when you really understand that this person is extremely narcissistic and that they are saying things purely to upset you, it doesn't matter what role this person plays in your life. It doesn't matter if this is a sibling or a parent or your best friend. This person is saying things purely to upset you, and these opinions don't matter. What this person thinks of you means nothing. And I know there's a big gap between understanding that this person's opinions mean nothing and the place where you've probably started, where the opinions of this person are very important. It's not something you can just snap your fingers and suddenly arrive at this understanding that it doesn't matter what this person thinks. But I want you to consider moving in that direction, because a narcissist's opinions of you in reality do not matter. They are completely irrelevant. This person is going to be thinking all kinds of things that are not based in truth and aren't even stable opinions. A narcissist's opinions of you change with their mood, change with the wind. This is why one day they could be treating you like you're their worst enemy, like you have committed the most egregious, unforgivable crimes known to man. And then the next day, for no apparent reason, they can suddenly be treating you like you're their best friend again. And it's really confusing. It doesn't make any sense. And it's just because their mood changed. And because their mood changed, all their opinions changed with it. So you can spend all of this time and energy thinking that their opinions are so important, when if you just sit back and wait a minute, all of them are going to change anyway. And a narcissist's opinions, as I keep saying, are not based in truth or anything real. Remember that a narcissist is spending every waking minute of their day, every shred of energy, on building their ego up, defending their ego, convincing themselves that they are important and that they matter. And they do that by tearing other people down, by finding ways to tear you down, by finding ways to convince themselves that they're better than you, that they're better than anyone, that they are not only more important than others, they're the only important person that exists. This is all they live for, all day long. It's all about them. The whole universe revolves around them. They aren't even thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves and how to best hold themselves blameless, perfect, and how to make you the bad guy and how to blame everything on you. So this is why their opinions just don't matter, because they're not based on anything to do with you, and they're not based in reality. They're based on how insecure the narcissist feels in the current moment. An analogy that I've used a lot on this channel, and I apologize if you've heard this a million times, but I want to compare this to arguing with a 3-year-old. A 3-year-old that's calling you names, calling you a poo-poo head or whatever. You wouldn't spend all night trying to convince this 3-year-old that you're not a poo-poo head, because you understand that this 3-year-old's opinion of you doesn't really mean anything. This 3-year-old doesn't have the maturity to even really understand what they're saying. And just like a narcissist, a 3-year-old can be throwing a tantrum 1 minute because you took away their cookie, and 5 minutes later they can be treating you like you're their best friend, because their opinions are just blowing with the wind, just like a narcissist's. And like, you wouldn't waste time and energy arguing with a 3-year-old to convince a 3-year-old that you really didn't mean to hurt their feelings or whatever. I mean, you might try to tell them that, right? But you're not going to put in a whole bunch of time and energy making an argument and trying to convince them, because you know that if you just wait a little bit, the 3-year-old's entire perspective is going to change for no rational reason. The next thing that can really help you when you're dealing with narcissists is to let them be wrong. And I've said this many times in my videos as well. It can be really, really difficult to be accused of things that you haven't done and to not jump to defending yourself. But when you're dealing with narcissists, they are taking advantage of that very normal human trait. There's nothing wrong with wanting to defend yourself when you're being accused of something you haven't done, right? That's a perfectly normal, natural human trait, and there's nothing to be ashamed of there. It does not mean you are weak. It means you are a normal person. But narcissists will hijack that, and they will accuse you of things that are not fair or not true, knowing that your normal human reaction is to start defending yourself, is to try to correct their misunderstanding, and to assume that they actually believe what they're saying about you. And this goes back to what I said earlier. Just because they're accusing you of something doesn't mean they believe it. In fact, they probably haven't even thought about whether or not they believe what they're saying, because it doesn't matter. So when they say things that are false, egregious, unfair, let them be wrong. Let them think that you don't care about them. Let them think that you're still in love with your ex. Let them think that you spent all the money when it was them, because you have no control over their perspective. You can waste all the time and energy you have and then some trying to clear your name with them, trying to convince them that they're wrong about you. And you will never succeed. You will only harm yourself. You will only exhaust yourself. And the best way to actually get your point across to the narcissist, the only way that you can actually affect them, is to let go of how much you care, is to stop trying to convince them that they're wrong about you, to let them be wrong, to shrug and say, okay, well, if you think I don't care about you, I don't know why you think that, but all right, I guess that's what you think. To just let it go and let them think whatever they want. That's how you take all of your power back. That's how you take all of the power they have over your emotions away from them. They do not have to agree with you about anything. This also applies to when you decide to cut the relationship off. A lot of us can get stuck trying to explain that, hey, I've had enough of it because you're mean. You don't care about me. You never listen. You're always accusing me of things I didn't do, or you cheated on me, or whatever. Expecting this person to give you some sort of validation, right? We can get stuck a long time trying to get this person to agree with us that we do have a good reason to leave the relationship, but that's never going to happen. And this applies to other people as well. The narcissist will have people around them that have totally fallen for all of their lies and have totally fallen for the fake persona that they exude. And people will tell you that you are in the wrong for cutting the relationship off, or for not helping them with whatever, not doing everything that the narcissist wants you to do. So I want to remind you that no one has to agree with you. No one has to like the decisions that you've made for your own life. You are in charge of your own decisions, and you are the only one that has experienced what you have experienced from your perspective. You are the only one that knows what it's like to be you. You are the only person who knows how it feels to deal with this narcissist in your life. Nobody else has a right to tell you how you are supposed to deal with this, how you are supposed to feel about things that they don't understand because they haven't experienced. You have the right to make your own decisions, and nobody has to agree with you, least of all the person that is causing you so much torment. And remember that if the narcissist was to finally admit that you didn't do these things they're accusing you of, or that you're right about what you're saying, they would have to admit that they've been unreasonable. They would have to admit that they've treated you badly, or they've accused you of things you haven't done, or they've made things up, or they would have to admit to all of this pointless, painful, hurtful behavior that they've engaged in for no good reason. And they're not going to do that. They have to double down on all of the ways that they've tormented you, because they do not have the emotional capacity or maturity to do anything else. So when you are trying to get them to be fair with you, you're asking them to stop thinking about themselves for a minute and to start thinking about you and how their behavior is affecting you. And that is so out of the scope of what a narcissist is capable of, and what a narcissist would ever have any reason to want to do. That's something that's just simply never going to happen. And one more thing I want to encourage you to do when a narcissist is taking control of your emotions is to pause and think. This can apply a lot to situations where the narcissist isn't face-to-face with you, or I should say it's easier to apply this when they're not face-to-face. When a narcissist has texted you or emailed you something, or somebody the narcissist knows has told you, hey, the narcissist, well, they're not going to call him the narcissist, but hey, so-and-so said that you did this thing, or they told me that you said this thing to them and it's not true. These things that narcissists do are meant to trigger us. They're a button that's been pushed, and we're not supposed to stop and think about it or put any thought into it whatsoever. We're supposed to just react like that. That's what the narcissist wants. But if we just stop and take a breath and think about it, and if this is not a face-to-face interaction and it's a text or an email, to wait at least an hour before reacting or responding in any way, if you have to respond, right? Because a narcissist knows how to say things that kind of bypass your critical thinking. So just as a simple example, maybe they say something like, you never cook us dinner. And your initial knee-jerk reaction is to defend yourself by explaining why, by saying something like, well, I'm always really busy, or I'm always really tired, or I never know what to cook, or something like that. Immediately defending the accusation. But if you just stopped and took a breath and thought for a minute, you would realize, wait, I cook dinner all the time. Wait, this accusation is not even based in reality. And I know this might be really hard to understand for people that haven't been manipulated in this way, because if somebody accuses you of not cooking dinner, but you cook dinner all the time, you would think that you would immediately realize, what are you talking about? I cook dinner all the time. But when you are living with somebody who's constantly gaslighting you and confusing you and spinning your head in circles and putting you in this brain fog that you are just constantly trying to understand which way is up, it's not that simple. And you can easily just not even be aware of reality when this type of accusation is thrown at you. And you can just start defending yourself and explaining why you don't make dinner when if you just took a minute to stop and breathe and think, you would realize, wait, this isn't even true. I've shared this story several times on this channel, so I'm sorry if you've already heard it, but I think it's a really good example of what I'm talking about. I was in a relationship a long time ago that lasted about 8 years, and towards the end, when things were really dying out, the death rattles of this relationship, there was a Saturday where I got up and I was just kind of taking it easy. And then this person I was in a relationship got up, and I could tell that just something wasn't quite right, you know? And this was perfectly normal to have him just kind of skulking around and making me kind of nervous and making me wonder if anything was wrong or if I had done something to offend him, but being too scared to ask if anything was wrong because he would always turn that around on me and make me feel like I was crazy. So I would just sit there kind of nervous, kind of confused, wondering if I was imagining things, too afraid to ask. And then he kind of in a huff finally started towards the door, you know, and he got his coat and his wallet and his keys and he opens the front door. So then I nervously asked, where are you going? And he turned around and he said, just like this, the store, there's no food in the house. And of course, this is with the implication that I had failed in my duties to make sure that the house was stocked with food at all times, right? And normally, I mean, after 8 years, this type of thing happened all the time. And normally I would immediately emotionally react with this idea that I was a failure and a disappointment, and I needed to defend myself by apologizing, by groveling, by begging for forgiveness and offering to go to the store like, well, I'll go get what do you want? I'll go get it. I'm sorry. And of course, never receiving forgiveness in these situations, always just being beaten down more and more of like, well, I'm tired of you not doing whatever, you know, it's like you're so distracted with your own things that you can't even go shopping. And there was never any forgiveness. There was just more and more doubling down, emotionally beating me up, making me feel like a failure, and then making me feel like what I had done was completely unforgivable. This was normal. So for the very first time in 8 years, I paused. Instead of emotionally reacting, instead of this pushing my buttons immediately, I stopped and I thought. And I walked into the kitchen and I opened the fridge and the pantry, and I realized that there was plenty of food in the house and that I had just gone shopping a few days ago. And it really, to this day, is still so strange for me to know that I was that confused, that I was in a state of mind where somebody could say something like that to me, and it's like I had no awareness and no memory of what's right in the kitchen, of what I had just done a couple days ago, to just assume that they are correct and that I have to defend myself and apologize that I've done something terrible, instead of stopping and thinking about what they're saying and just taking a breath and just applying some critical thought to the situation. And, you know, it didn't turn into a 3-hour argument about how terrible and awful I was. In fact, as I was looking at the food and realizing that this person was just making things up, this person that I trusted, this person that I thought cared about me, was making things up just to make me feel bad because he was bored and insecure. And as I stood there looking at the fridge and the pantry, he walked into the kitchen and he didn't say anything. He just looked at me, and I looked at the fridge and I just kind of half laughed and shook my head like it was just dawning on me. And he didn't say anything. He just walked out of the kitchen and he did not go to the store. And that was not too far from the end of our relationship. So as I said in the beginning of this video, if you have fallen for any of these tactics, if you have allowed a narcissist to control your emotions, to keep your head spinning, to keep you up in the middle of the night replaying conversations in your head, or to get stuck in these endless 3-hour arguments about nothing, don't feel bad. This means that you are a human being. And if the things that a narcissist said and did didn't emotionally trigger you, didn't upset you and get you stuck in these emotional traps, that would probably mean something was very unusual about you. It's nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing wrong with you if you're a normal person. These traits, these emotional triggers, or these ways that we have of emotionally interpreting our world are meant to help us function and get along in a world of people that are like ourselves, of people that care about relationships, of people that want to get along with others and build a constructive, healthy society. That's what these inclinations we have are for. They are not meant to be hijacked and exploited by somebody who has absolutely no perception of other people. You shouldn't have to learn how to cut off these emotional triggers, how to stop yourself from going forward when somebody pushes on a gas pedal. You shouldn't have to learn how to stop caring what people in your life that are important to you think about you. But when you're dealing with narcissists, that is unfortunately what you have to learn. You have to learn things that are counter to your own human nature. And that doesn't mean that anything is wrong with you. It means that there's something very wrong with them. I hope this helps. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment below any ideas you have for me for future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like this video and would like to see more like it in the future. Until next time, thanks. Bye.